84 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. Moving on now, continuing with the ACC, to the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, a team that was very close to an ACC championship last year. They were the ACC runner-ups. They won the ACC at Atlantic, and things worked out really well for Wake Forest. They were one of the more pleasant surprises of 2021. However, coming into this year, you are losing your offensive coordinator, among some other talent on both sides of the football, but you return a couple of key pieces to this team as well that we're going to look at here. And you're coming off a very, very strong season. So can Wake Forest be a contender yet again in the ACC in 2022? Or will this be a season where Wake Forest takes a step back? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason. Guys, that means I'm doing your favorite teams. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when that video gets uploaded. And the fans of Wake Forest out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot better than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, anything of the sort, please leave it in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to read through with what you guys have to say. So let's talk about Wake Forest in 2022. This is my 5th ranked team in the ACC coming into the 2022 college football season. And again, this was a pretty surprise of a team last year. They were 11-3 overall, 7-2 in conference. That does include the loss in the ACC championship game to the Pittsburgh Panthers. And overall, again, a pretty good year. 10-2 regular season. Of course, lost the ACC championship game. Did go on to win their bowl game. It was going to be against Texas A&M, but they pulled out because of COVID reasons. So they also, so then they had to play Rutgers. And ended up beating up on Rutgers. But this was one of the better offenses in the ACC last year. 468 yards per game with around 41 points per game. So good numbers on the offensive side. The defense may have held this team back from a couple games. If you remember, the North Carolina game was kind of a shootout. North Carolina simply outscored them. Also got the ball late to help them win that one there as well. But this defense could use a little bit of improvement. They had 423 yards per game with around 30 points per game allowed last year. So not horrible, in my opinion, but definitely needing some improvement on the defensive side of the ball. Now, you're going to have to replace an offensive coordinator on this team. However, with Dave Clawson still as that head coach and the players they have coming back, which we'll look at in a minute, I still think this is going to be a pretty solid offensive team. But let's look at some of the talent that they are losing on both sides of the ball first. So their leading rusher from a season ago, Christian Beal-Smith, former South Carolina transfer, is gone off this team. Had 604 yards and 7 touchdowns a season ago for the Demon Deacons. You'll lose that production. You also lose a 1,000-yard receiver. Jaquari Roberson had 1,078 yards and 8 touchdowns for this team a season ago, as well as Donald Stewart, who had 388 yards and a touchdown for this team last year, and Brandon Chapman, a tight end who only had 12 catches, but 3 touchdowns a season ago. Off of the defensive end, I know I'm going to butcher this name, but Luigi Villain, I know I butchered that. I apologize, again, if I mispronounce any names. But Villain had 9 sacks a season ago, and that led the team. Also, guys like Miles Fox, who had 34 tackles, 3 sacks of his own. Luke Masterton, the leading tackler, who had 85 tackles, 2.5 sacks, is gone, as well as DJ Taylor. And also some other key guys. Jasir Taylor, out of that defensive back group, had 5 pass defended, 2 interceptions from a season ago. Zion Keith and Travion Red, who led the team with 3 interceptions a season ago. You lose all of that production there. Definitely the likes of Roberson, Villain, that's spelled wrong. I do apologize. It should be the I, or it should be the A before the I. I apologize. And then Taylor and Red in the defensive back group. Those are some huge losses there for this team. But one key player returns for Wake Forest, and that is quarterback Sam Hartman. Last season was pretty good. 4,228 yards and 39 touchdowns. You might say, Nate, that's fantastic. What do you mean he's pretty good? In my opinion, cut back on the interception numbers, increase that completion percentage. He was rocking only a 58% completion percentage last year. Not the best. And 14 interceptions a season ago as well. So improve your decision-making with the ball. Now, I do like Sam Hartman. I think Sam Hartman is a very, very good quarterback. And obviously led Wake Forest to do some great things on offense a season ago. But maybe cut back on the interception numbers a little bit for Sam Hartman. Justice Ellison figures to be that premier running back coming back. was not far behind Christian Beal-Smith in terms of rushing, had 541 yards and 7 touchdowns for this team a season ago. And they also returned Christian Turner on this team as well, a name that is not up there as well. Rushing the ball, Sam Hartman, pretty good as well. 363 yards and 11 touchdowns. Had the most touchdowns on the ground for the Demon Deacons last year than Sam Hartman. At the wide receiver position, you return your leading receiver in A.T. Perry, 1,293 yards and 15 touchdowns a season ago. You love to have that production back. Some other guys like Taylor Morin, Keyshawn Williams, and Blake Whiteheart back at the tight end position there as well. A lot of key guys at the receiving position coming back for Wake Forest. On the defensive side, well, your second sack leader from a season ago. There we go. Rondale Bothroyd is coming back. 63 tackles, had 8 sacks a season ago, as well as guys like Davis, Johns, Ryan Smenda, who is your second leading tackler with 83 of them, comes back, as well as guys like Chase Jones, who had 47 tackles. And in the defensive back group, Nick Anderson, Kalen Carson. There are some other names that, of course, you could throw on the list for both sides of the ball as well. But I'm drinking the Wake Forest Kool-Aid this year, and you're going to see that in a little bit. And we're going to take a look at their schedule here. But I'm liking what I saw from the Demon Deacons last year, and I'm liking them coming into this season as well. When you look at their non-conference schedule, you got a home game against VMI, and should be a fairly simple one there against the Keydets. And then a road game against Vanderbilt. You might think, ooh, tricky road game against a Power 5 opponent. Vanderbilt, of course, has not been competitive in recent years. However, they're bringing in a couple nice recruiting cycles, so we'll see what the Commodores look like next year. Home game against Liberty. Don't sleep on the Flames. I know Malik Willis will not be that starting quarterback, as he is now in the NFL. But be mindful of the Liberty Flames. That can still be a very dangerous team. And then a home game against Army as well. We know the fireworks that were put on in that affair last year. I believe 126 points in total were scored in that game. So you definitely got to watch out for that game there as well. Otherwise, when you get into conference play, you got home games against Clemson, Boston College, North Carolina, and Syracuse. And then you got to go on the road to play Florida State, Louisville, NC State, and Duke at the end of the year. So let's dive into this Wake Forest schedule. Again, you got a couple fairly interesting non-conference games. The Commodores, to a lot of fans, could improve in 2022. However, I maybe see the Commodores improving in a couple of years. They're bringing in a couple nice recruiting cycles, but even going on the road, I just don't see that being much of a threat for Wake Forest, especially with how good I think this team is going to be. Then you got some interesting home games in non-conference against Liberty and Army. I know a lot of people are going to think Liberty is going to be that good. Malik Willis, I know, is not going to be that quarterback, but there's still a lot of nice pieces coming back for the Flames. Don't sleep on Liberty in 2022. Same thing with Army, and I think Army gets slept on almost every year. It's Army. They're fairly forgetful and independent, what have you. That's a dangerous football team, and it's a team that, as we saw last year, can score a lot of points. So you got to watch out for the Knights, for the Black Knights, because that can still be a dangerous game for Wake Forest, even though instead of going on the road like they did last year, they get them at home, still going to be a dangerous game. And speaking of dangerous games, there are a lot of tricky ones on the ACC schedule for Wake Forest. Some of the less tricky ones, well, you got to play Syracuse at home. I think that's an Orange team that might struggle to get some wins here and there, but I think overall it's going to be a team that has a lot of fight. Same thing with Boston College. They're returning Jerkovic. They're returning Zay Flowers. And that's a Boston College team that can be fairly dangerous in this next season. Then when you look at some of the trickier road games here, you got on the road against Florida State, possible trap game there. The Seminoles are kind of in a position where they got to improve now. The Cardinals in Louisville return one of the best playmakers in the country in Malik Cunningham. And then another home game I didn't mention, you got to play at home against North Carolina. North Carolina beat you last year, and that's a team that, under Sam Howell, scored a lot of points. We'll see what the offense looks like for North Carolina this year. And then you got the two big ones on the schedule, the two teams in your division, Clemson and North Carolina State. Those are going to be two key games for Wake Forest here on the schedule, and they're going to be two huge games that Wake Forest probably will have to win one, if not both of them, in order to get back to the ACC championship game. So I do not do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based outlook. Tell me, predict a team's records. Of the games in red, I just don't see a win in the game the game's in orange, I still don't see you winning. But hey, it's college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win, but you got to watch out for the team on the other side of the ball. And games in green, I got you winning. So the first 2 games of the year, I don't see any way Wake Forest doesn't come out 2-0 from those first 2 games. Yeah, Vanderbilt on the road, maybe a little bit of an interesting environment. We'll see what happens, but I do think Wake Forest is the much, much talented team than the team with the same color scheme as them in Vanderbilt. As I said, you got to watch out for Army. You got to watch out for Liberty. Those are games that Wake Forest can't afford to slip up at, right? Can't afford to kind of take their opponent lightly, right? So definitely watch out for those 2 non-conference opponents. Then you get into conference play. I think on the road at Duke, the only reason that game's in yellow-green is because it's on the road. I don't see many scenarios really where Wake Forest loses that game. Same thing with that Syracuse game. Although Syracuse, again, a little bit more of a trickier game. Same thing with Boston College. Those are 2 teams that I think are going to provide a lot of fight when Wake Forest plays them this year. So just watch out for them. Could be an upset alert for Wake Forest at home. Otherwise, the rest of the games are in yellow. Again, you got some dangerous road games, possible trap games on the road against Florida State, on the road against Louisville there as well. So definitely 2 games that both sides have, or both teams have a fair amount of playmakers. Both teams are teams that are looking to try to increase their standing in the ACC this year. So again, those 2 games right there, I think Wake Forest probably splits those games there. Although I think in order to get back to the ACC championship, you probably could afford to lose one, but that would also mean you'd have to beat North Carolina at home and then win one of the 2, Clemson and NC State. Because it's very possible that the ACC Coastal, especially in the top 3, beats up on each other, especially if some things don't get worked out with other teams. Especially Clemson. Look, Clemson is a team that did not have a great offense last year. In fact, had a pretty poor offense last year. But it's a team that, and it's also a team that is losing their offensive coordinator. So we'll see what the offense kind of looks like for Clemson this year. But if they cannot turn that offense around, Wake Forest could pull out the win there in that game. We know how good Clemson's going to be defensively, but that offense has got a lot of question marks coming into next year. On the road against NC State may prove to be their toughest test of the year as well. NC State projects to be a pretty good team. See what happens there. All in all, I'm drinking the Wake Forest Kool-Aid. I like what Dave Clawson has going. I like the play of Sam Hartman. They're returning lots of guys like Perry, Bothroyd, Smenda, a lot of guys that I like. I got Wake Forest. I think they can be able to challenge for that division there in the ACC, and I have them going 9-3 in 2022. I do think this is still going to be a fairly good football team here in 2022. That floor being 7-5, again, maybe if things just don't work out, and if Sam Hartman, and if that defense can't take step up as well, if Sam Hartman continues to maybe make some poor decisions with the football. But 11-1 I see as that ceiling. I really think this team can be something special. I really think this team can push for the ACC title again in 2022. Maybe a little bit of an outside shot, but I got this team at 9-3 going into 2022. Let me know what you guys think about the Demon Deacons in the comment section below. And be sure to like, subscribe, share the video, anything you can to help support the channel. And remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.